The cannabis industry has grown across Colorado, raking in $1.5 billion last year alone, according to the Department of Revenue. But some pot producers are leaving behind more than just smoke. I found out how weed waste is affecting the state.
It's a small world.
Have a good day.
And it's turning real fast.
Thank you for calling Peak. How may I help you?
While consumers of cannabis may be more concerned with the high, could there be a low leading to our landfills?
In a childproof container, it has to be not past the expiration date, all the regulations for the state.
Daniel Medina showed us around Peak Dispensary in Denver.
The advantage of this, just be extra cautious.
A neighboring dispensary in Boulder also pointed out the pot packaging problem.
A typical half-ounce example of what we weigh out in. And this is a number 5 plastic.
The general manager, Jason Feibel, says there's room for improvement.
A lot of water is used in growing, and it's not being recycled. A lot of plastic is using in packaging.
The outer layer, which has all the licensing information, all of the legality stuff. You usually have the inside layer, which is where the product is, and usually there it's quite a bit of plastic and cardboard for a little piece of plastic that big.
Plastic pointing to state regulations.
We're following the rules to a T, but there's a lot that we just don't know why we're doing it.
The Marijuana Enforcement Division licenses and regulates the commercial, medical, and adult use cannabis industry.
Child resistant and opaque, understanding that there are labeling requirements.
Dominique Mendiola says their main goal is public health and safety.
Keeping marijuana out of the hands of children, out of the hands of criminals, and out of other states.
I'll show you these ones. These are like pre-rolls.
While trying to use the feedback they get from those on the front lines.
And part of that discussion does include a generation of waste.
She says they've seen higher sales of concentrates recently, like those made by Craft Concentrates.
There's a lot of regulations that not only are confusing to licensees, but also confusing to the regulators themselves.
Kevin Gallagher is the Director of Compliance and Government Affairs for Craft.
It's really difficult to have legitimate branding or marketing on such a small container with all of the required information as well. The state makes us use bulky, inefficient packaging.
Calls the labeling low-hanging fruit.
When we can actually condense the labels on the packaging, we can actually resort to a much more small, much more efficient packaging.
He says MED does an outstanding job, but believes the labels only need information important for first responders and to help consumers make an educated decision.
Blindly over-regulating the cannabis industry because there might be irresponsible parents out there really is a disservice to the industry. The more that we're overburdened with regulations, the more that the black market is obviously going to thrive.
He says as more companies get their footing, environmentally friendly packaging will find its way into dispensaries.
So right now, when you look at the available eco-friendly packaging, it's going to be a little bit more expensive than your normal everyday packaging.
A typical tube, I think we're paying around 8 to 10 cents typically. Our tubes are about 25 cents. We're definitely more expensive, but this is kind of the cost of sustainability.
Ron Bassick-Smith of Sauna makes sustainable packaging for the cannabis industry.
The first one is 100% plant-based material, and then the second one is 100% reclaimed ocean plastic. It's like you're actively paying to have someone go out in the ocean, a human being, collect, clean, and sort this stuff, and there's a cost to that.
He says we all start out small.
So we see an opportunity there to work within those regulations, try to bring some clarity to those regulations, and make packaging that makes sense for the industry.
But a change
Depends to two sides.
is coming soon.
Countless options that potentially are going to be a little bit more expensive, but in the long run it's going to be worth it.
Because in between the walls of weed are people trying to make a change.
We need more compostable plant-based plastics
to keep cannabis green.
Under 20% of what's inside of our landfill is actually marked as just trash, according to the study. The Mesa County landfill is estimated to have less than 25 years left before it completely fills up. I looked into our recycling infrastructure and one particularly problematic form of trash to find out what we can do to help keep the Grand Valley beautiful.
A daily drag, dumping trash from door to door. But Patrick Cahill from Monument Waste says they're not only in the trash business.
The time and the equipment to sort everything isn't free.
He says they're also the only option in the Grand Valley that will sort your recyclables for you, a process called single stream.
Your glass, plastic, aluminum, office paper, cardboard, it all goes in there.
Cahill says it's only around 20% of their customers who also choose to use a single stream bin.
To make it easier for everybody and to get higher participation, we pick up twice as much as everybody else.
Residential single stream at Monument Waste is $8 a month, and it's picked up every other week. But still in the trash.
So there's a milk jug. Oh yeah, that's cardboard.
At least half of the waste could be recycled, and even more if you consider moving in towards like a composting.
Cahill says it comes down to the dollars.
And if it's cheaper to recycle, then that's when it will happen.
I think most people that might have been willing to recycle probably won't do it if they have to pay for it. If Grand Junction made it easier, I think more people would do it.
After years of living here, some say they did not know about the recycling options.
I just throw it in the trash can.
Throwing it away, throwing it away, throwing it away, throwing it away. There will come a time when we do run out of space. There will come a time.
Barrett Jensen says that time is coming a lot sooner than you might think.
That can be recycled.
For our own Mesa County landfill.
Where do you see your kids in 2042? And that's how I think of it is, in 24 years, my son will be 33 years old. And whose problem is it going to be? It's going to be their problem.
A pricey problem, because once our local landfill is closed, it still must be maintained for around 30 years after. And finding a new spot is not easy. Millions of dollars would be spent on a new landfill.
It's extremely dangerous. That'll catch a landfill on fire like that.
All the while, millions of dollars are buried at the bottom of our current county landfill.
Over $250 million of recyclables are thrown away in the landfill each year, just in Colorado. It's money that can be made.
Through the waste characterization study done earlier this year, Jensen found out over a third of what's in our landfill is actually recyclable.
The plastic bottles is a big one. We could extend the life of our landfill by a third if we just recycle more.
Plastic makes up nearly 20% of the recyclables that are thrown away.
Plastic can last for thousands of years in the landfill.
Plastic doesn't weigh a lot, but it takes up a lot of space.
Space that's running out.
Seeing a bunch of plastic is a little more disheartening. It's not as recyclable for the long term. Plastic doesn't disappear, it just goes out of sight.
The city of Grand Junction contracts its recycling services to Curbside Recycling indefinitely, where they sort and ship recyclables to be made into something new. A timely process for something we use in a matter of minutes.
Something like these single-use disposable water bottles and soda bottles are only meant to be used literally for 5-10 minutes and discarded.
They say recycling plastics is generally easy, but you cannot do it more than once or twice, depending on the kind of plastic.
So plastic breaks down each time you recycle it, and chemically, molecularly, you can't recycle plastic forever like you can aluminum or glass or steel.
Their drop-off program is completely free. But their curbside recycling program comes with a price tag.
Nothing's free. Recycling in many cities is the #2 biggest cost for municipalities. It takes a lot of work to run a successful recycling program. So we're really happy to keep ours at $1.75, which is well under the national average.
These 3 items cost around $21 when bought in the store. That's the same amount of money that it would cost to have curbside recycling indefinitely pick them up from your curb for a year.
It's a frustrating prospect to know that there's so much material that we can do something with, that we can use, that is just being entombed forever in dirt.
You just need to do it nowadays. There's no reason not to be recycling.
Monument Waste is working on a new recycling facility which should open in the spring of 2019, and they hope it will make recycling more accessible for the Western Slope.
We'll be able to service more people, and then our hopes are possibly we grow it into a full-blown recycle center.
Cahill says the waiting game.
When landfills, and they will eventually cost more, recycling will be a cheaper option.
A cost hitting more than just our wallets.
If we don't battle it now, we're going to be really battling it. And when it's when it's too late, it's too late. It's too late.
Let me kiss right on the cheek.
Scott Washkowiak loves life on the farm.
So just the same as the big tractors in the San Joaquin Valley.
Growing food, with Mount Garfield watching.
1,500 square feet of polyculture, and it'll extend our season about 3 months in the spring and 3 months now in the fall. And growing fruits and vegetables, it's of utmost importance to have clean water.
The fog he can see from his farm touches a parcel of land that could be leased to an oil and gas company by the Bureau of Land Management this coming March.
So we all have thermometers in our homes, we all drive vehicles. Our clothing has petroleum in it, I understand that.
However, he's concerned about how close this proposal is to his home.
So water aside, just the negative impact that would have on tourism and people's impression of our valley.
The land is split up into a few sections near several different landmarks.
Immediately behind me is the brand new Colorado Parks and Wildlife Cameo shooting range. Just a little further up the road is the Little Book Cliffs Wild Horse Herd Management Area.
Highland Acres, the interstate, and very importantly the river.
The mayor of Palisades says the town's board of trustees wrote a letter of opposition against the proposal.
I'm very much opposed to it. Naturally I would be, having spent 7.5 years getting the complex to the point that it is now.
For Palisades Mayor and Conservation Colorado, it's all about recreation and the river.
Mixing that with industrial scale oil and gas development just doesn't make a whole bunch of sense. There's 23 million people downstream who depend on the Colorado River, so assuring that the cleanliness of its water is critical.
There are thousands of wells near water sources, near communities, and they're safe, they're operated in an environmentally responsible manner, and I'm confident that the travel and traffic on the interstate poses more of a threat to anything along the river than an oil and gas well would.
Susan Alvear also says the drilling process is short, and after that,
painted an environmentally neutral color, blends into the landscape, and there are wells out near Fruta that mountain bikers ride by every day, and I don't think that diminishes their experience.
The BLM says Colorado got around $144 million from oil and gas production in fiscal year 2016.
The benefits of any federal lease is money that comes back to our community.
It's a debate that dates back decades.
In my end of the valley especially, I will go to great extremes not to see it.
An answer that will come to light when the public comments.